Oh boy, is this really like what, 4th analysis video on NT? I mean, I know my channel is pretty much a Dissidia channel, but I might squeeze a lot out of a single game. Maybe I should do a next big video about other series I like. Anyway, after pointing out the big improvement this game has compared to predecessor, pointing out the flaw of this game that should have been fixed, and pointing out history of this game genre and marketing approach, today we're gonna pointing out something that even some fans of this game are not really fond of, but I kinda am. A story. Not the mode exactly, that thing have their own ups and downs. Well, mostly down. Seriously, remove this crap. I'm talking about the actual story. Now, this topic was sort of not particularly my forte. When it comes to game, I always prioritize gameplay over story. But still, it doesn't mean I give a zero crap about it. If it's a good story, I can have a good time with it. Doesn't need to be well written, but we'll get to that. So story in Dissidia has been the thing that most people have been disappointed. And I'm not saying I have no problem with it. It pays like crap, the length is still short, though they constantly update it but for every 2 months, so better than nothing I suppose. And some characters barely have any line or screen time, especially Gobez. I guess that was a casualty of being the last character to come to the arcade before NT was released. These complaints are shared between me and other people, but other big complaint that I heard about is, should I say, the lack of world building and the complex story. Like how 2 new god characters, Materia and Spiritus, doesn't have much going for them, or how this new world doesn't have much going for them in terms of background. And really, consider how we come from dualism that has a ton of those things, I can see the reason why people are getting bummed by the lack of it. But here's the thing though, those things are not really necessary, and too much of that is honestly the waste of time. Let me explain. When it comes to fighting game, characters should be the focus of your main narrative, so most of the playtime will not be for a story anyway, so characters should be stuck with you. Though for crossover it's a little different. Compared to the game that make a story and character from the ground up, the characters from crossover game are already established from other sources. And hey, the main draw of the crossover game is how all these random characters we know just come together. That's the whole point of why they're making this game. So story need to have that element, but when you have to put other original element in the new lore or whatever, or try to make sense out of the crossover game, and wasting more time on that aspect, will overcomplicate the whole package. We'll get to that, but something you can also do for this story is to show newcomer who doesn't know about these characters yet, which was initially my case for first OG Dissidia, my first Final Fantasy game. The OG Dissidia story mode was still a good stuff, for the most part at least, but before that, let me summarize the basic plot of OG Dissidia continuity in case you're a newbie to this. There's a 2 god, Cosmos is a good one and Chaos is a bad one. These 2 are in this world B, and they are fighting each other over and over with some of the Final Fantasy heroes and villains. When one side falls, they got revived by Shinryu, who have his own background and was the villain of the whole story by the way. And cycle begins anew and they fight each other again. And also in this universe, for every new cycles, the warrior also lose their memory, and they have little to no knowledge about their original world. Well, aside from some occasion that they break that rule. These story modes are honestly at the strongest in the character exclusive chapter, which is where character development and interactions are. When characters have discussion about their personal problem and fight with their villain, it's really cool to see, even though some of them are kinda like the abridged version of their pre-existing character development from their own story. Each 10 chapter also culminate with a cool fight cutscene. The character doesn't move their mount like a goldfish anymore, and after the final chapter, it ends with beautiful farewell CG cutscene, and ultimate callback to the beginning of the franchise as a finale. Yep, awesome stuff there. Though all of this was great, there are some problems I have. There are a lot of backstory going on in the background that's not really explained much in the main story, or it's not really matter much in the whole grand scheme of things. I mean, I know this is like a 13th cycle of war, so there's a lot going on before that, but do we really need all that? Also, the thing that bugged me a lot is that whole losing memory thing. There's not much interaction about their world and past you can do with that setting, so why doing that? The only reason I can think of is just for them to retread their OG story for that character development plotline. They mostly do that from the character from later titles. But instead of actual development arc, we have Cosmos come and say, "Don't give up, warriors. Also go be the villain from your game, that will always work." But still, it's not that overwhelming and story is still full of cheese. Most of the time, it's still a simple good guy be the bad guy story, and it's better that way. and then Duodecim prequel story happened, and oh boy, we just enter serious mode. I don't mind focusing on new character at all, but despite cutscene clocking around 1 to 2 hours, the whole plot about Mannequin Horde putting all the heroes to sleep and Kane might be a traitor plotline just eat up so much time and it's dragged. All this just to make an excuse for why these characters are not in the next cycle, by the way. There is not much of character having fun or interact aside from here and there, like Yuna's story, every scene that have captures in it, and a leg crab. Aside from that, it's mostly exposition. Even the report side story got more fun stuff in there. That scene with Buzz and Tidus wondering about Old Man and Bird are the kind of tone I want from this kind of game. But that's not considered the confession of creator, the high level campaign with somewhat challenging fight, and the complete and total lore dump about previous and future cycle, the origin of a Dissidia world, the creator Sid, and how everyone here except for Garland was a mannequin. I mean, all of these are presenting in the text box by Sid Mugo, spreading out really long empty world. And yep, I don't really care about any of these huge complicated novels that is wrote for a freaking dumb crossover game. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Cosmos and Chaos as a characters are the means to an end. They are entities that act as an excuse for why these Final Fantasy characters are together and fighting each other. And okay, and I'm fine if they have some sort of personality or relationship to enjoy, which they barely have one, so we don't need a long backstory for the character that was introduced as such, as well as other elements like the origin of mannequins and the creator Sid to just fill time. Let's be real here, we are talking about a game that just brings whatever character from entirely different universe to the world that made out of random place from other game and connected together with a magic portal, and now everyone can freaking fly. Which in the end is still about hero versus villain story anyway, so why don't you just cut all this bullcrap out and just make a simple story to follow and fill it with character talking or character doing awesome stuff, which is a thing that most people will remember more. A crossover game main selling point is the fact that these characters from different universe just somehow come together and do whatever. That is a basic premise for almost every crossover game. And it's a stupid and nonsense concept by design, but that's the purpose of these sort of games anyway, so if you're gonna write a story for it, just embrace that silliness. And sure, there's some different case for crossover game, like Kingdom Hearts for example, which is really dumb, but they really freaking run with it. The main story of Kingdom Hearts and the thing they cross over with, Disney and Final Fantasy, are either really disconnected to the main plot and acts like a mini separate story like a filler episode. Hell, even the first Kingdom Hearts game are mostly like this, or be a minor character that aren't really important in the long run. If you want to write crossover story, you can pick either using or fleshing out crossover character for fan while having overall story simple and not the focus, or having a full-on original story with crossover stuff work separately or in the background. Mixing both together evenly will pretty much ruin both of them, cause most of the time one side will drag the other down. I mean, you can do both of them together and make it work on both ends, but it's the equivalent of making a single gourmet dish that needs to have both juicy beef steak and bubblegum flavored ice cream together. I was really hungry when I wrote this, didn't I? Okay, anyway, let's take some other example here. Dragon Ball Fighter Z. Yeah, in my country we pronounce C as Z, okay? The Arc System game has mostly been notorious for making long as hell storyboard, with about 1% of them being an actual gameplay. Due to either having 10 times more convoluted story than Kingdom Hearts, or the way they presented it with visual novel approach and constant monologuing text stretched the time even more. Although for DBC Fighter case, it was not nearly as long or convoluted, it's a goddamn Dragon Ball Z. It has a lot more gameplay, but even that, the story cutscenes still managed to be pretty long. It's pretty much a standard DBC story with even less stake than usual and a crap ton more padding. But the funny thing is, the scene that people actually like are the special interaction with character talking, roasting or having heart-to-heart with each other. These scenes utilize character personality and their backstory in a funny way. These things are cool even for a non-DBC fan like me. But what about the other 70% part of the story then? The villain story that repeat almost the same thing with 3 campaigns, the explanation of how all characters got nerfed, which is just an excuse for one character to not one-shot everyone, and the whole human self-insert spirit thing was not really interesting, right? Anyway, I've been repeating my point too many times, so let's just go to how NT just ignore all that and go to the point. With only 1 hour runtime, they make a similar story to the OG Dissidia, and while NT may have less character movement due to runtime, still a problem, yes, but they waste way less time on the background role for you to memorize. There's still some reference to previous game and even duodecim, but not much aside from Terra's story and Shenryu, which you don't really need to know about his past story as a villain. It does give you more impact if you know that, but you can easily get that he's a powerful entity that needs to be stopped. Materia and Spiritus will not really have much going for them, and their voice casting choices are pretty bad. The story doesn't really spend much time with them, and for the little time they spend on them, they do have a little bit of personality. Materia is a selfish bitch, and Spiritus is an a-okay guy. Yeah, really simple, but again, the game doesn't really waste much time on them. For their backstory and motivation, it has been explained briefly as much as necessary. Rommel explained that they are born from remaining Cosmos' will, and since you want to keep this world alive, so does Materia and Spiritus. And because this world can only live through the energy created from conflict, they summon heroes and villains to fight each other. Bam, that's all we need to know. How is a cycle of war work? After Shenryu is defeated, Muko help heroes and villains create a perfect copy of themselves for two gods to use as a replacement, and the real person go back home. Boom, we are done here. Why did this world take a form of various locations from that game? This one sentence from Yastola explains it all. Let's go back to 1 being 1 and on the night 1 to get Yastola holy blessing, if you know what I mean. And then not just only fill that time with standard crossover reference affair, it also do something new with character. Most of the warriors that bring back here are from the time after that game's story ends. It's after Happy Ever After basically. And unlike OG Dissidia and duodecim, which characters have memory wiped but act mostly like their time in the game, NT characters are the already developed version of them. Again, I think they realized they have been recycled their plot once in the previous game, so I'm glad they did something new with this one. And it's really cool to see how their personality and relationship turn out to be. Squall being a little bit more open to his friend, Terra being more confident but still kind-hearted. She got to town with Sephiroth for a while, she even used a freaking sword against this massacre. You can see Sedan and Kuja's relationship will be as a brother who get on each other's nerve. Jesus and Dex still have a pretty awkward relationship, but now they actually act like a bro. And Lightning shows some sign of motherhood toward One. Wait, when the hell did this ever happen in the entirety of 13 trilogy? Not only that, but because the tone of the story being way more fun and lighthearted, I actually get some appreciation to a character I never knew, care or liked before. For example, I don't really care much about Shantotto before. Hell, I remember don't liking her in duodecim. Here she is a level-headed wizard with the power to brag and actually show it. Also, she is sassy, savage ass. That epic rhyming trash talk battle the history between her and Ultimecia was not only funny but made me like her a lot more even without knowing her origin. X-Death used to be a typical evil overlord bad guy, but because he got pulled into this world suddenly and Kapka happened to be around, he become like that one bad guy who just so done with everyone crap here. Also, there's some other scene like Squall getting pointed to the right direction by Yastora, who, may I remind you, is also a newbie to this whole war. Oh, and also she's blind. Squall getting pointed in the right direction by the blind. Noctis traveling with two Royal Knight, Warrior Blind and Sizzle is pretty much a mentor and student relationship. And seeing Noct talking about telephone and TV to a bunch of fantasy knight was hilarious. Oh wait, they changed that in the English version. What the hell, localization team? And obviously the presentation have been improved a lot. The facial animation really enhanced the experience and emotion of character. There's so many shots I can use as a thumbnail. And all of this culminated in the final showdown with heroes and villains working together to beat Shenryu. And this scene pretty much captured the main appeal of this series' story. Why do these people fighting each other to death just for a plan to rule Shenryu? Why do we have a scene of Noctis walk with lightning weapon and give it back to her? Why do we have Jag 1v2 against Buzz and Squall with this awesome pose? Why do we have heroes and villains suddenly protecting each other? Why do we have magic user blasting a giant laser beam and order go slash the dragon in half? Because why not? It's freaking cool. To conclude all of this, Dissidia NT Story is not great at the story. The problem with length and structure is something that definitely can't be ignored. If you like well-rounded and well-paced story, I can understand why you don't like this game plot. But compared between 3 games, the NT Story is the one that understands their own identity the most and embrace the ridiculous concept of the game it was. We play fighting game for characters, and NT do most of them justice even in gameplay. From their playstyle and mechanic to numerous voice chat lines that every character have. And despite they all have the same meaning, each character will say it differently. It's a feature that I really appreciate, and although I have no idea who is gonna be the next DLC character, even if it's someone I don't know about, I know I'm gonna have a great time with them. Oh, and hey Nomura, consider a lot of elements of Kingdom Hearts in this series and you put Dissidia NT reference in Kingdom Hearts 3, can we just have some